Welcome. My name is Jay Martin, and I'm a professor of history and director of the Central Michigan University Museum in Mount Pleasant. My NEA Big Read Lakeshore program is Moon Around the Boat, a story that comes from Great Lakes folklore. I know a bit about the Great Lakes because I'm a maritime historian and archaeologist, as well as a lakefarer myself. This story supposedly happened about 100 years ago when steamboats predominated, but before modern technology like radar and global positioning systems were invented. It starts in a western Lake Superior port where a boat, which we'll call the Never Sink, was loading a cargo of iron ore. The work of loading required a lot of energy, but the captain knew that the first mate and the deck crew were up to the task. Now, the crew of a lake boat is divided into three divisions, with a captain in overall charge. The first mate leads the deck crew who navigate the boat from place to place, load and unload, and generally take care of the topside maintenance. The engineering crew, led by the chief engineer, operate and maintain the mechanical equipment, including the engine. They make sure that the boat can make it from place to place. And the steward provides the meals, linens for the beds, and the laundry. The navigation of the boat is so important that the captain can only achieve his position through the deck division, so there is generally more camaraderie between the captain and his assistants, the mates. Sometimes these three divisions get along well, but not always. So on this particular night, the first mate, tired from loading the boat, assumed his place in the pilot house for his watch. He was responsible for taking the boat across Lake Superior toward the Sioux Locks on what turned out to be a calm, moonlit night. This boat was an old bulk carrier with the pilot house all the way at the forward part or bow, and the engine room all the way at the rear or stern. Far removed from the engine room, the pilot house was quiet except for the monotonous sound of the boat pushing through the water. Tired as he was, the first mate watched the wheelsman steer, checked the compass to make sure the course was correct, looked out the pilot house windows for other vessels, and finally found a convenient place to lean. The night was uneventful, and the first mate yawned, sipping coffee and trying to stay alert. But he'd been awake for many hours, and after a while his head started to loll toward his chest. His eyelids gradually closed, first a little bit, partially, and then completely for a few seconds, and then finally he was asleep. Suddenly he awoke with a start. Falling asleep on duty is a cardinal sin because it puts the ship and its crew in danger, and the first mate was shocked that it had happened. So shocked that his first instinct was to look around to see if the wheelsman had noticed. He saw that he too was asleep, standing right there at the wheel. Worse yet, the vessel was way off course. So he jostled the wheelsman and said, "Hey, wake up there, get her back on course." The wheelsman awoke and spun the wheel rapidly to steer the boat back on track. Having survived this close call, you can bet both of them remained wide awake for the rest of their watch. Neither mentioned what had happened, for they had both been negligent in their duty. They were pleased when they were relieved by the new watch, going off to bed believing that no one had discovered their indiscretion. Well, the next morning the captain was on his way to the officers' mess for breakfast when he encountered the chief engineer. They chatted pleasantly before the chief engineer said, "You know, Captain, last night I saw something I thought I'd never live to see." "What's that?" the captain asked. "Well, I came up on deck to smoke. It was a beautiful night, full moon, the surface of the lakes almost as smooth as glass." "Yeah, I saw it," said the captain. The chief took a pull on his pipe and then said, "Well, did you see the moon circle this boat 3 times? At that, the captain was speechless. The only way that could have happened is if the boat had been turning in circles. The captain said nothing, going on to the office mess to eat breakfast before he had a word with his mates. On the way, he asked the steward, "What's for breakfast?" The steward responded, "Humble pie." It was clear then that the entire crew knew, and now having lost his appetite, the captain stormed off to confront the mates. You can bet that was not a pleasant discussion. So what does this story from Great Lakes folklore tell us about how lake boats work? It tells us that the deck crew is in charge of getting the boat safely from one place to another, and that the engineers and the stewards have to keep doing their jobs, even if the deck crew has the boat turning in circles. And that's the story of the Never Sink, a story that probably never happened. Thanks for spending time with me for today. For those of you who are interested in pursuing a career in museums or history, visit www.cmish.edu to learn more. Fire up, chips!